Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Alpha Flight, issue number 2 from the Fall of X. A little sick right now, bear with me, alright? Anyway, this was a very interesting book. There was a lot more, there was action in here, but the action was almost irrelevant. It was more about the story, it was more about trying to put all the chess pieces into place. Was that able to be accomplished in here? That's what we're going to have to really get into. First, let's talk about who made this comic book. Then we'll get into the game of chess. This issue is called Divided We Stand Part 2. Ed Brisson is the writer. Scott Godlewski is the artist. Matt Mila doing the colors and VC's Travis Lanham on letters. Leonard Kirk and Edgar Delgado doing the covers. A couple of variant covers out there too. Feel free to check them all out. This was a fun issue. I wouldn't say it was a great issue, but it did put, like I said, it put a lot of pieces into place. Were they in the best places for them to be? Based off of the previous issue, I would say yes, but based off of what I'm seeing here, where they're not giving the big reveal of what all of this is supposed to do, it doesn't feel like it. You try and get the idea of how a book is going to land, right? How a book is going to end, especially when you know that it's a 5-issue limited series. You try and get what the comic book is going to try and set into place. This is called The Fall of X. Is this a book? I mean, it's Alpha Flight. On average, look, for all of us who have loved Alpha Flight, who grew up reading the heck out of Alpha Flight, they matter to us. But let's just call a spade a spade. At the end of the day, does Alpha Flight really matter to the vast majority of comic book readers? Abso-freaking-lutely not. It's like, oh, Alpha Flight, who cares? And one of the reasons is one of the pitfalls that's happened in this issue that I recognized in the previous issue, but I'd hoped it was going to get out of that bubble by this issue. Alpha Flight doesn't matter to anybody right now. Why? Because the only reason why they matter in the first place is because they were an X-Men enemy. Then it turns out that there was actually a story behind it and they were actually good guys. So we started reading those issues. And then some really cool things started happening, so we started reading those. But as we went more and more and more deeper into the issues, I mean, I think everybody can agree by issue 50, we realized, I think it was issue 54 with me, whatever it was, that it was like, okay, Alpha Flight is clearly not going to have anything to do with the rest of the Marvel Universe. They very much went the route of the X-Men, where it's like, here's the Marvel Universe, here's the X-Men. And in this little tiny corner up here, here's Alpha Flight. So while the Defenders and the Champions and the Defenders and Avengers and Defenders, all these guys different, got together, they were doing all their own things and having big crossovers and whatnot. Even when you're talking about something like the Infinity Gauntlet, oh, they'll send over Cyclops and Wolverine, but now we ain't sending anybody else over. No, you can't have any more X-Men characters, and you're lucky you even got those guys. So the X-Men aren't a part of the greater Marvel Universe. So many people grow up with the idea of you either care about the X-Men or you care about the Marvel Universe. And if you read all of them, it's cool. But those of us who did read all of them knew there was a fine divide. It was cemented in our minds from the beginning that this barrier, this great barrier reef existed. And I think a lot of us fell off of Alpha Flight. A lot of us fell off Alpha Flight because it wasn't connected to anything else, including the X-Men. But those of us who did stay on it, I think some of us stayed on it because it wasn't with the rest of the Marvel Universe. So you could read that and it would be that by itself. It would be Alpha Flight by itself. I hope I don't sound like I'm rambling. I know I got some brain fog going on right now. But here's the problem. Alpha Flight failed specifically because of that reason. Now, Avengers tried to bring some Alpha Flight together, like the whole Marina thing, right? Submariner married to Marina. There's the whole thing, the Ebony Sword to kill her at some point when she became Leviathan, and all sorts of crazy cool stuff like that, right? But for the most part, it didn't take too damn long for it to be Alpha Flight's doing his own thing. And they would fight their own villains. Every so often you'd have some greater Marvel Universe villain, but I mean, they usually had their own villains. And it got to the point where it was so isolated that it was easy to just say, you know what, I need to drop a book. But if I drop Avengers, well, all the annuals tie in together. So if I want to see the whole Atlantis Attacks thing, I got to get the Avengers. I got to be reading the Avengers. If I want to see this whole thing, with Mr. Jip doing his thing, which came from Cloak and Dagger. The easiest book to drop off of. If you only want to drop one or two, Alpha Flight was the easiest one to do that with. And I see them still making the exact same mistake here. And yes, I think it's pretty hard evidential that it is a mistake. Alpha Flight needs to tie in to the greater Marvel universe. Otherwise, it's dead in the water. It's a buoy that kind of broke free from its rope and is just kind of floating out there. It doesn't serve any purpose. So I really hope that Brisson finds a way to bring Alpha Flight into the greater Marvel universe, because if he doesn't, this is just going to be a little 5-issue one-shot, a 5-shot, and then it's gone. It's over. It's done. I don't want to see that. I want to see this turn into an actual ongoing. More than anything else right now in the Marvel Universe, that's what I'd like to see. But they have to matter outside of Canada, outside of their own villains, outside of their own stories. Of course, they have to have all of those things, but they have to be tied in. And here I got nothing to that. If you don't know these characters, like the chick who's, I know her, and I can't remember her name right now because I'm so freaking sick and I can't be clicking through this book. I'm looking at it online. What do you call it? She's got the magical sword and she's got the teleportation. The sword is making it so that they're all invisible, but only when they're inside the building, not when they're outside outside of the building. Literally just 1 foot or 1 meter. Let's say 3.5 feet outside of the compound. I see you. We register you. Look at all these mutants. Look at all these exiles. Ha! Go there. Get them. Hey, Alpha Flight's here too. Oh no. She is apparently the most crucial piece in the puzzle. She's basically I'm going to say that she's the queen, right? In this chessboard, she's the queen. You take her out, the king's relying on pieces that can't do everything. Everybody knows, for the most part, unless you've got the greatest strategy going, if you take out the queen, the other person's screwed, right? You could have both rooks, both bishops, both knights, but if you lost your queen, what did she take out in order for her sacrifice to be worth it? Not a good idea, not a good plan, at a horrible strategy. Nobody sacrificed their queen, but here she is sacrificing herself. If she, like they already gave us the setup, if she fails in the middle of a teleportation, these guys are screwed. If she fails in a way where it's like, oh, I can't maintain the magic to keep us shielded, they get found out, they get caught, they get screwed. Vindicator is obviously the king here, but Vindicator's screwing up. He's back and forth with his ideas. He's not a good leader in this. He can't make specific decisions that sound good, that are sound. You'll never win with a flimsy leader, with a flip-flopper of a leader. There's a reason why the army is synonymous with the term fragging. Look that one up, kids. So, unfortunately, when your key piece that determines win or loss, victory or defeat, Vindicator, is just flip-floppy and weak. And then when you got your queen in here, I can't remember her name. Sorry. All in red. Looks like Deadpool with a cape and a sword. When she's like actively sacrificing herself for nothing. Once Vindicator said, all right, we're just going to return to base. And I get it. It didn't quite happen that way, but yeah, it did. Once we saw that, it's like, okay, so she just used her teleportation powers for nothing. That's what just happened. And she's going to have to use them to get back in again. And she's not telling everybody, hey, I know I signed up for this. I'm going to do the best I can, but you got to be sure. got to be sure about this stuff. But we saw Puck, who is already the loose cannon in this, run into that room and say, hey, we need such and such and such and such. He's already the loose cannon. We already saw he was speaking out of turn in the previous issue. Maybe he was doing that on purpose. Maybe it wasn't part of a big ruse. Maybe he was actually just being a dumbass, you know? You'd figure this guy who's been alive longer than anybody else on this team would be a little bit smarter than that. Whatever. He has a lot of energy. Imagine an antediluvian who needs Ritalin. God, I can't think straight right now. Anyway, yeah, this was fun seeing what happened, seeing the threat of this one guy. For crying out loud, Lewis in here. Argent, not Argent, the other guy. Argent goes and puts a letter to his mom, Laurent. A letter to his mom. I couldn't even read it. I saw a white page. I'm like, Ed Brisson, haven't you freaking learned by now? We're so sick and tired of these goddamn things. Maybe if you would have done it in parchment, it would have been easier to read. But I maybe there was crucial information in there, and maybe I'm just sick. But I couldn't read it. I'm like, keep it. Keep it. Not interested. It could be a whole info dump. Don't care. Not interested. I'm so goddamn sick and tired of these white pages and all of these formerly known as, Hickman stuff. I'm so tired of seeing these things. Everybody needs to get that through. Seriously, every single writer in Marvel needs to get that through their thick skulls. For the most part, I think that most of us do not want to read the damn white pages anymore. Just stop. Stop with the briefs. Stop with all of them. Sometimes you could beat a thing to death. That's this. All right? This poor horse, you whipped it to death. Pete is going to be all over me for this video. Anyway, I thought that for the most part, this was interesting seeing the places, the pieces put in their places. I don't necessarily like the places they were put in. It was the exact same thing with the previous issue, where I was looking at it and I was going, these are all horrible pieces. But at the end, it showed me that it actually worked out really well. Now, the problem is that I saw these first pieces, that I saw where these pieces are put, and we don't get what's going to happen with the pieces yet. That probably won't be until the fourth issue, and then we'll see the final battle in the fifth. So I can hold on for 2 more issues. So I'm good with that. I imagine really bad decisions to be made in the next issue. I imagine Pirate Deadpool is going to be incapacitated in the next issue. I imagine, which I'm good with seeing that. But I have to see that and I don't want it to be a Hail Mary. Like, Hail Marys are cute if you already know that these guys are good. But for the most part, nobody wants to see that. That just sounds like old school XFL. If anybody remembers that. It's supposed to be the hardest, baddest ass version of football that we've seen in our generation. And Vince McMahon up there. What happened to my football? And then the first thing that happens is the first goal that's made is the hitman throwing a pass. Or a field goal, excuse me. I was expecting to see people actually getting, crunched, and this is what you give me? Is what it is. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. I'll let you know by the next issue, if you're not on this book, if you should go back and find the back issues on this really quick, or if you just wait for the trade paperback. By the 5th issue, I'll let you know if it's even worth it. For right now, though, I was more disappointed with this book than anything else. Seeing Lewis in here, fighting, but he takes out one sentinel, the box sentinel, and then he gets hit because he's talking, and he keeps on talking. Then he takes out another sentinel. It's like, these are mindless automatons. They're being controlled by Roger Box Jr. back at home. Why don't you just eviscerate these things right now and get the hell out of Dodge? Instead of continuing to put these people in danger and all this other stuff that was happening. It felt like some of this stuff was just kind of dragged on. And is Ed Brisson writing a manga right now? That's what I'm wondering. Anyway, I am looking forward to the next issue. I'm trying to see the shoe drop, all right, and see what exactly happens. For now, this issue though, it ended before it felt like it should end. It just kind of it dragged. There was some dumb things that happened in here. Real like seeing Vindicator being or Guardian being so just Hudson being so indecisive, it really bugged me. I did not need to see that moment. That was the thing that actually made me go, what the hell is this? I sat back in my seat. Like, what the hell is this? An indecisive leader, really? Him at this point now? Really? Did not need to see that. That's what actually killed it for me in this comic book. I was otherwise pretty amped for it. And I just saw that indecision, knowing what they had to go through is what it is. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. Like the video, watch an ad. And don't forget to check out my Kickstarter. Oh, guys, if you I just put up on the Kickstarter a flyer. If you guys can go and ask your comic book purveyor to post the flyer in their place, or if you go to a hobby shop that sells D&D and fantasy-esque kind of games, Warhammer, all that stuff, and ask them if they could put the flyer up in there, that would actually be really cool and really helpful, and I would genuinely appreciate that. I understand not all of you are into, in fact, most of you are not into Dungeons and Dragons. You come here for comic books. Make no mistake, I'm not upset at anybody for not jumping onto this. Like, only get it if you're interested in it, you know? But spreading the word would be actually helping out. So if you could just print out the thing and just, hey, can I put this here for my buddy, this guy who does comic book reviews? He's like a really cool guy and it looks like a really good book for, stuff like that. I would really appreciate that. Hobby stores especially, but love you guys. Talk to you later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.